And while I'm doing that, I'd also like to remind everybody, if you are not speaking, please turn your microphone off.
Okay.
It makes everything sound so much better.
Forestation Board forum with Connie, Herb, and myself.
We are live, so you can go ahead whenever you're ready, Lee.
Let's start the meeting officially. The first item is the approval of minutes of the March 9 meeting. I had one change from what I sent out. Was an action item by Herb. The minutes read contact city council. It actually should have read contact city attorney, which he did. That's my amendment to the minutes. Any other comments about the minutes? Can we vote on these minutes as amended, please? Anybody?
Yeah, I was muted. I listened to Ron explicitly. Yeah, I make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Connie, can you second it?
I second it.
Great. I'm in favor of it. So minutes are approved as
Yep.
amended.
You didn't vote.
Next on the agenda is the mayor's update. I'll go off you to listen to the.
No, those minutes haven't been approved. You didn't vote.
Okay. I vote yes.
I move yes.
You got 2 votes. Nobody else wants to vote for the minutes?
We did vote on the minutes.
No, you didn't. You had a motion and a second, but you never took a vote.
Well, Herb voted or made the
But
motion.
you're sorry I came to this meeting.
Well, let's do it again. If you want to make the
Okay.
motion to approve the minutes.
Herb votes yes.
And
Okay,
Connie was second.
I second it.
Right. And all in favor vote yes?
Aye.
Yes. Okay.
3
The
votes.
minutes are approved as amended. So now we have a mayor.
All right. We are beginning to work on the budget for the upcoming fiscal year that starts the 1st of July. It's the 2021-2022 budget. We'll be starting to work on that. Got a meeting scheduled next week on Tuesday. So get your wish list in as far as the Forestation Board is concerned. I want to give you a little report. The current fiscal year, we have received, round numbers, $455,000 from a thing called the CARES Act. So that's already been received. It's over and above our property tax and all the other revenue streams. It looks to me like that is going to cause us in the current fiscal year to come in a lot over the current budget. So that'll go into our reserves for the coming year or years. In addition, I received an email from somewhere in Frankfurt 3-4 weeks ago telling all the cities in Kentucky how much money they can expect to get from more recent federal legislation. And the thing is pages long because there are a lot of cities. Prospect, it said, can expect to get $900,000 from this. Half of it this year, actually this spring, the other half of it a year from now. So that's over and above our property taxes and insurance premium tax and the things that are normal. So I'm just telling you, it's a lot of money coming in. So this would be a good time for you to tell us what you want in the upcoming budget. Other interesting news. I had a call middle of last week from a member of, we've been using a firm for several years to do our annual audit. And one of the people on their audit team called me up, and he had heard that because they're so terribly late, we should have had the audit results around January. And we don't have them yet. And so we started looking around to get a different auditor for coming years, like for the audit that would start this summer and be concluded at the end of the year for 2021. And we decided on a company that we would move over to. Well, apparently that word got around a little bit. So this fellow said that we ought to get our company that we're about to hire for next year, we ought to get them to do what he's been working on. Well, I was shocked. So what I did was I called the senior partner of the current auditing company, and he told me two things that I didn't know. One of them, I kind of heard that they had been hit pretty hard by people getting sick from the coronavirus. It was slowing everything down. The other thing, though, that I did not know is that the senior partner had sold the company to his employees. And from what he told me, apparently it's not going well. All right, so I got in contact with the new auditing company, and they are going to take it over, and they understand that some urgency to this. They're going to get started right away. And yesterday I signed the engagement letter for them to do the current audit and next year's audit. Now, one thing I want to put out there so everybody understands, preparation of the budget on the one hand and the audit on the other hand have nothing to do with each other. It does not impact in any way our preparation of a budget or enacting a budget. It's entirely separate. It is something that is required by state law that we do, and we have to turn it in to the state by a certain date. And that date has gone past, but we got an extension, again, because of the impact of COVID, got an extension to the 1st of December. So we're all right there. We'll have it well before that. So that's been going on. Finally, last subject, the LDG litigation continues. What's going on right now? Well, I don't know if I told you all this. About 3 weeks ago, we got a favorable court ruling. We had joined that litigation voluntarily. We moved to enter in as a defendant, and we filed briefs and made oral argument on summary judgment, and we got it. So that has to do with the Prospect Cove proposed project down near where Don lives, down along Timber Ridge Drive. Meanwhile, there are three parts of that litigation, and we're only in one part, which is the one we just succeeded in. The other two are still out there for the other parties. We're not involved in that. However, their lawyer, their courtroom lawyer, Tanner Watkins, is taking depositions of every Metro Council person who voted our way, Prospect's way, back in 2017. And I've been told that he's going to take my deposition, so that'll be interesting. Meanwhile, up the road, on the other side of the Marathon station, there's two lawsuits going on about that. One of them alleges, and he's a good lawyer, I believe him, that it was never rezoned for apartments in the first place. So they've asked for an injunction to stop it. There's another factor in that litigation, not in that litigation, in that situation. Hasn't gotten litigation at this point. That is that it cannot impact adversely nearby historic properties. By historic properties, I mean properties that either are on the National Register of Historic Properties or properties which are entitled to be, even if they're not. The folks who live up around there have hired a Washington, D.C. lawyer and a consultant who's an expert in this kind of matter. And that consultant filed a report about a week ago, and it's over 100 pages long. I've read some of it. It's very interesting. It's very impressive. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point that matter turns into litigation as well. We are not involved in any of that litigation, which is a good thing because we're spending a lot on the first one. I guess that's my report. Any questions? So, back to you, Lee.
Good policy report.
Did you ask me a question, Herb?
That was what I said was that was a good policy report.
Good. Glad you liked it.
Is there any information about the breakers? They seem to have slowed down.
Funny, this is the first I've heard that. We now have a code enforcement officer again, as you may know, and he handles the building applications whenever somebody wants to build a house, whether it's in the breakers or anywhere else in the city. He's the guy. Before he got here, I was the guy, and I approved. Actually, I got to approve the construction of the Southern Living house, and it was a very interesting process. But I haven't heard that there's been a slowdown at all.
Too
I
bad.
understand all the lots are sold.
Oh, they are?
That's what I was told.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty pricey.
My experience with developers is watch what you hear.
How do you watch what you hear?
I thought about that after I said that's why I can really draw. Just talking and putting words together is just too difficult for me.
Greg, a lot of the lots have for sale signs on them. Does that mean the builders bought them and they want to resell them?
That's the way I take it. I happened to have been with Ms. Gillizan, I guess one day last week on another matter, and she said all the lots were sold. So, but I think you're right. I suspect they're sold to builders. So
Mhm.
Typically, that's what's done.
Oh, okay.
Did we lose Lee? Where is Lee?
I guess the meeting's over. We don't have a chair.
No, I saw Andrea. Andrea, you want to? I'll jump in here.
Sylvia
Andrea,
Plays here too.
hi
You should
Sylvia.
be able to get
Hey.
So, yeah,
Is Andrea available to give her report? I remember Ron yesterday saying he had more different places he had to plug in and connect.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Yeah, okay,
There you
all right. Wanted to give you an update on the tree planting. The trees have been dug, they're at the nursery. It's my understanding the utilities have been marked, although I was gonna check that myself. And, I'm hoping they'll be planted next week. I was pushing to have them planted this week, but, it looks like it's gonna be next week. So I'll keep you updated on that, and that'll still be within a good time frame. I told you all that I would, I'm switching subjects to the ash tree spraying that we do, that the city does. This is the spring to do the larger ash trees. So,
if I get on this.
pardon me? Anyway, so I have started looking at evaluating all the ash trees. It would be ash trees that are over 10 inches in diameter. And so I have been evaluating them. I have a little bit more to do. I have most of them done. I would say I was going to finish it yesterday, but they, as you know, they were milling part of Hunting Creek Drive, and the big piece of milling equipment was kind of blocking part of it, and I couldn't finish it yesterday. But anyway, there's approximately 10 or so trees that I would recommend retreating. There's a few I've taken back off the list that aren't, unless they're looking really healthy, I don't think it's worth spending the money. I also wanted to let you know that, we've been using limb walkers the last couple of treatments. They were the lower bidder, and they've been a good company. The contact person for limb walkers has changed again this year, and so it's a new guy. His name is Matt. I can give you his last name, but I have contacted him and told him that we will be sending him an updated list to bid. They have changed their pricing structure, which I'm not sure will affect this list of trees significantly. They've actually raised their prices. They're charging $150 a tree, just any size tree. In the past, the last time the city spent money on ash trees, last year it was $850. They were charging per diameter inch. So you measure the diameter of a tree 4.5 feet up from the ground, and that's where you measure the diameter. And it used to be the tree companies that were treating the emerald ash borer would charge per inch. They call it per DBH, inch of diameter at breast height. That 4.5, they charge a certain price for every inch of diameter, basically. And it used to be $850, and now limb walkers has gone to a straight $150 a tree. So I don't think because we have larger trees this time, it's going to significantly affect the price. If we had smaller trees, it would. But we can also, so in other words, if you had an 8-inch caliper tree, but let's say you had a 10-inch caliper tree, and it used to be $850 per inch, it was $85. Now they would be charging $150. So that's a significant increase, but because our trees are bigger than that, they, they might be 20 inches or whatever. I'm not, it maybe it'll be a wash is what I'm saying, but we'll have to wait and get the bid and see. I've also contacted Bob Ray Company, who has bid on trees and done some of this work in the past. And thought we could get a competitive bid from them as well. So the next step for me is just to finish the tree list. I'll get it to you. And if you're okay with it, I'll get that pricing. And I don't think it will take very long. The goal should be to treat them probably depending on weather, it'd be mid to late May. So that's kind of the update on the emerald ash borer situation.
Andrea, can I ask, I'm sorry,
Sure.
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just to understand, so is it a flat 150 no matter what size the tree?
Yeah,
or-
I think so. So where the city has those two large ash trees, for instance, at the bottom of the hill at the entrance of Honey Creek, that quote is a deal because those trees are probably 40 inches or something, so in that case, it's a good deal. So I think maybe it'll end up being fine this year if you all agree and approve it, to use limb walkers. I mean, they have been consistently doing a pretty good job, I think.
I think,
Yes.
I think we can trust them. I've used them and
Uh-huh.
it's a really good company. I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, I've always thought myself, this is just me personally, it's not any kind of professional opinion or anything, but because I've used them and everything, and they do a great job. But
Mhm.
so whatever the price is, at the end of the day, somebody is going to inject the chemical into the tree. So how much of that chemical is injected over a period of time and how long that person injects it, that really has a lot to do with how much the real cost of it is. So we don't know that. I mean, we could say it's $150 a tree, and they won't do this, I don't think, because I trust Lynn Walker, but if it wasn't a reputable company, they could say that they injected X pounds or whatever it is, gallons. I don't know how they measure that.
Right.
And we would never know. So just wanted to say that, but I think they're a really good company.
Yeah, well, it also, the uptake of the chemical that they use, triage, has to do with how well the tree is translocating. And that's dependent on weather. So if you have a very cloudy, wet day, the tree isn't going to take the chemical up and translocate it through the rest of the tree as quickly as if they're treating on a bright sunny day where the tree is translocating and moving that chemical throughout the tree faster. So my experience has been that I usually start. I'm getting an echo. I don't know if you are, but anyway, my experience has been if the weather's a good day, it works better. And usually what I do is I try to meet with them on site as they begin and sort of check on them. And because what they'll do is they'll inject one tree and then they'll move down and start on another one, and they'll leave that the first one going to allow it time to take up as much chemical as they're injecting. But you're right, we don't have we won't know the exact amount that they're putting in each tree, but I think that's about as good as we can do. As long as we know the chemical's right, the weather's pretty good, and we feel like we have a qualified company and a qualified applicator putting it in. The other thing is, I did notice, I don't have a list of these, but I will. There are several dead trees on Sutherland Forest Drive. I haven't brought up. A couple of them are ash trees. One is their other species. Kind of succumbed over the winter months, I guess. Bigger trees. So I can get a list of those together for the next meeting or sooner. So I think other than maybe what's on the agenda, it's probably all I have at the moment.
I want to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I've turned it on so that I can ask a question.
Yes.
My technical advisor was just, never mind. Question I have, Andrea, there was some talk about when we would be stopping doing the ash treatments.
Mhm.
Can you speak to that? Would it be
Well,
after this year or next year or what?
checked with one of the entomologists at the University of Kentucky. And his recommendation was to continue for a little while longer, and maybe a couple more years, because not all of the counties in Kentucky have reached their peak populations. And there's some varying population numbers in some of the counties around us. So he was not confident in recommending stopping total treatment. I think what we could do is, and I've been doing this with some other clients, is go, maybe we only do it one more time. Maybe we go to a three-year cycle, or we were doing every 2 years, but there's some research now that it's just about as effective to go to a 3-year interval, because the chemical is pretty effective. So I'd recommend that maybe now on we go to a 3-year cycle, and maybe in 3 years by then, it'll be time we can quit. That would be my thought. I don't. So they'll be changing their recommendations. I usually go on the recommendations from some of the universities that have been doing a lot of research on it, like Ohio State, UK, Michigan State, that kind of thing. So
That's great. It would save us some money.
And we've been narrowing the list down every single time. Because unless the trees just completely leafed out and looking really good, I wouldn't recommend that you retreat them, because trees have other issues as well, not just emerald ash borer issues, that causes them to decline. Does that make sense? Or okay. So I think that's all I have at the moment. Herb?
Okay, I take it, Lee, you can't see you're muted, so I'll jump in here. The next item was new plannings, and I know in our wish list budget, I think we've got, we've asked for monies that could accommodate maybe up to 20 trees. And the other aspect is I think really the forestation plan, if they want to do this, is they need to create a plan. I'm gonna call lack of anything, a lack of called the tree canopy plan. And this would be where trees could be planted in the right of way in front of in residential and commercial properties. We did get a letter opinion from city attorney, Mr. Gorman, and he said that it is permissible for the city to improve land on rights of way if it's a part of an overall beautification plan for the city. It's not legal to pick and choose at random a few favorite homeowners and plant trees for their benefit. And so he goes farther. I won't read the whole letter, but he said basically after we get a plan, and if then our next step would be take the plan to the council. It's within the mission of the forestation, but it's a little bit of a different avenue. So I would suggest that the Forestation Board would take it to the council to make sure that for their really for their approval for this type program. And then, but we'd have to have this plan, and a rough idea I would say is the tree canopy plan would be the eligibility for these programs would be in the neighborhoods and commercial areas that have limited tree canopy on their adjacent public streets. And, and then so I think the Forestation Board needs to sort of tweak that and maybe add to it. But I would hope that we would do this right in my neighborhoods, which happens to be Autumn Hill Court. There's been a drastic change in the tree canopy because of the diseases of the trees down more in the end of it. Some of the homeowners have been wise enough to get trees from the Arbor Fest, and they plant them, and I noticed yesterday that they're blooming, but there's still some pretty big areas. There's areas of Westover that were removed, and it's quite a difference of the tree canopy there. So maybe what I'm suggesting, Lee, is that we have a session. Maybe we do it now.
Herb, can you hear me? Herb?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that's good.
Now I
My
can.
system was having problems. Herb, you have a great idea. I think certainly we need to address this over some time. The matter of how much money to budget, how we would limit the number of people who could get a cost sharing arrangement at any 1 year. And certainly the selection of trees. Andrew has a lot of experience with this because Anchorage has been doing a similar program for some years. And I think if we work on this, we can definitely increase tree canopy, and that would be a great thing.
I would.
You know, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna change what I is just that I'm gonna recommend you call a special session, and that we actually, this would be the only item on this to create this plan, so we can get it together, take to council.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because it's a pretty significant subject and will take a lot of discussion. Okay, we'll call a special meeting on the canopy.
I want to have the proposed budget completed, not more than the next 4 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, this may not be so pertinent for the upcoming budget, but for future budgets after that. So, I mean, we do have some money in the budget for planning, so it may come in, but yeah. So Lee, hopefully you'll call a meeting before a special meeting before the next meeting, so we can actually have something to go to council with sometime before summer.
Okay.
The other thing Anchorage does is they really enforce the rule you can't take down a tree. And we don't do that. If we just set a blanket, you have to check with us before you take down a tree, then we wouldn't have to say street trees and then explain what a street tree was. And we can say, if you take down a tree, you've got to plant another one. Because, you know, no one should take us seriously because we never enforce anything.
Well, I wouldn't say we never enforce it, but we definitely have problems with enforcement, and that's one of the items that I have on the list right now, where we had trees, 3 maples taken down along Wyndham, and we, of course, the Forestation Board has the ability to fine people who do that without written permission, but we didn't want to fine those people, so we reached an agreement with them that they would plant or replace the 3 trees two of which they could get from Arborfest, one of which they were to buy and have installed or planted. And according to what you were saying, Connie, nothing has happened on that. And I was maybe planning to give those people a call, but if somebody else has an idea how to approach this, please speak up. Any comment?
I don't have any comment on that, but I have a comment about what Connie said,
Yes.
if that's okay. If we can
Yeah,
go
go
back to that. So as far as the city of Anchorage, if you, and their tree removal, situation. In the city of Anchorage, if you have a tree over 3 inches in caliper, then you have to fill out a tree removal permit and get it approved. And most of those, the majority of those go through, but if over, if you're removing 6 trees or more, then actually I have to visit the site to see why they're taking out that number or more. And many times it's justified. And, if you have a bigger lot and you have a lot of trees on it, there's always trees that are dying, whether it's ash trees from emerald ash borer or just old age or whatever it is. As far as the idea to plant trees along the right of ways, it might be, and we can, I know you may call a special meeting, but to get started, it might be that the city, the council eventually allot a certain, come up for the first year of a certain budget amount that would pay for the trees. In other words, it would have to be limited, not limited by geographic area in the city, but limited obviously with the budget number. Anchorage pretty much has, and maybe the city of Prospect would want to do this, but what they do is they send out the information every fall about their canopy tree program to every resident. And pretty much anybody that wants to sign up and share the cost, if they're willing to agree to certain parameters, are able to purchase a tree that way. And the city, in that case, and it certainly can be done differently, but in that case, the city pays the wholesale cost for the tree. We give them a choice of X number of trees. Usually it's 5 or 6 or 7. It could start off being easier than that and just give them a choice of 2 trees or 3 trees or whatever to make it simpler. And so the city pays for the cost of the tree, and the resident pays the cost of the planting and getting a tree guard put on it. But they have to agree to certain parameters in order to qualify. So that's just kind of an FYI. But if you all start off by sending letters to every resident, you might your numbers may go way up as far as how many people want to plant trees the first year. I don't know. So I just wanted to mention that.
Well, I think a limit could be, it's so many, the first come, first call, and that could be the plan. Yeah, that's
right.
It would not show any partiality, which is what our attorney said. So, and ones that have more of an interest in their particular neighborhood. So,
right.
Yeah, you drive through Anchorage, and what a difference between Anchorage and Prospect.
But what I'm saying, the Forestation Board calls this meeting. We need to take the plan to the council. Council has lots to do. I mean, that's our mission. That's why our board set up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other comments on that item?
Well, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's certainly doable if it handled the right way, and it's something that eventually the council can agree with. Or after
I think if we limit the cost somehow, council would probably find it acceptable.
I mean, it's a really good way to get a little bit bigger tree planted, quality tree, and have control over the planting, whoever you hire as the planter.
Yes.
Because you're controlling a lot of the things that, to get the trees off to a good start, for sure.
A good reason to say this is a great place to live. Prospect is a good place to live.
And also, right, and also selecting, the tree selection's important, so, you know, we don't want people planting a flowering crabapple in the right of way next to the street, nor do we want them planting a Norway spruce that's gonna be foliated all the way to the base, where it's gonna be a visibility issue, so selecting quality trees that would, at least in my view, canopy over the streets in the future, down the road, so to speak. That was a bad use of terms, but canopy over the streets and offer some shade and just to beautify some of these areas where there are no trees. It seems like a good idea.
Okay, no other comments there. I'd like to return back to the agenda itself. A brief report on problem trees. There was a white pine on the golf course. I sent out an email saying the golf, Hunting Creek Golf Club will remove that tree in the fall. There was a dead blue spruce at Montero and Deep Creek. Linda Knox had prepared a request for its removal. I added to the name the occupant of the actual property because it's a bunch of condos there. And Ron has processed that, and presumably the code enforcement will follow up on that. Andrew had identified a city-owned dead or dying blue spruce on Westover, the first median as you enter the estates, coming from the direction of where Herb lives. We need to vote to have that tree removed, and I'm not sure about replacement because that site is crowded, but Andrew could comment on that. But could we have a vote on having that blue spruce on Westover removed?
I make a motion to have that blue spruce removed.
I second.
I support it. Could we vote yes? All three people have voted yes.
I vote yes.
Right, Connie and Lee. Okay, we're good. And Andrea, do you have any thought on replacing that blue spruce?
Before y'all put too much thought in that, that's one of the islands we're going to be redoing if the budget goes through. So hold off on replacing it for now.
Okay, that's a good comment, Ron.
Also,
you.
Lee, case 221, the Montero blue spruce.
Yes, sir.
Rick has made contact with the management company,
Yes.
and they are getting actually a price today and one tomorrow, I believe, for getting it removed. So
Okay.
it's in process.
That's a good report, Ron. And Ron, going back to the blue spruce on Westover, where you're going to redo it, do you need anything else from Forestation Board on that?
Not at this time. I got to see what one, I got to get money approved for it, and two, I got to see what we're going to do.
Okay.
So,
Ron, would it be possible when you get a plan together for the Forestation Board to just review the tree selections that have been made for that median or planned ahead of time? Sometimes, sometimes there's different varieties or cultivars that are superior, or just some comment the board might have that would be helpful.
yeah, there's a couple of crab apples and some other stuff that's going to be removed in the process. So, yep, I will get back. I'll let y'all take a look at it.
Okay, great.
Folks, while we're on the subject of dead trees, I guess this would come under that category. This is a down tree, and I'm speaking of the rather large section of a tree that still is laying on the ground. So as you're driving on US 42 going towards Oldham County, and as you approach the entrance to Hunting Creek, it's on the right and it's in someone's backyard. I guess that would be with Hill Circle. Does anyone know what the status of that is? It's rather unsightly, and is there anything that is being done or can be done?
I kind of know where you mean. I don't think we've taken any action on that. Because it's down, isn't it? Pretty much, but it's just really unsightly, right?
Correct. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Didn't the fella that we think it belongs to say it doesn't belong to him? And
No, this is a different address, I think, Herb. The guy there was another gentleman in that, I don't know, within a couple of houses of the one Greg's speaking of, that we had to cut down a tree that was very hazardous, and he did that and removed it. I think he removed it. I believe the one Greg is referring to is a different address, but very close to that area, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think we've contacted this person. What do you think, Lee, about that?
Well, we don't have authority except for trees that present a hazard. But certainly we could write a letter to the property owner and maybe they would follow up on it.
hey, Lee, doesn't the ordinance say something about unsightly? Also, besides hazard?
There is a provision in the ordinance that says if it is, I can get the exact words, but in the line of sight. If you want to
Yeah, I
hold
don't
on.
think it's a line of sight issue.
Yeah.
Oh, there is an advantage to down trees, you know. They support wildlife and insects and you know.
Yes, but I know what Greg is talking about. It's pretty unsightly.
Yeah, it's really a detraction to the entrance, I think.
Well, I'm just saying
The
if we
thing is, we'll get the address and the homeowner, and the Forestation Board could just write them a letter. Let's see what happens. Okay?
You know, I'm just looking at the ordinance now, and it talks about the word, or to preserve or enhance the symmetry and beauty of such public.
Yes, it does.
And so this isn't public ground. That's that person's private property.
I think it's hanging over a fence or
I don't think it hangs over.
safety guard or something like that. Okay, I'll undertake to get a letter together. If I can get the address, we'll be fine. Okay, the next item is just for information. Linda Wardell had a contact that's offering to donate $300 for a commemorative memorial tree. We've done that before. According to information I have, that the person will provide a $300 check to the city, and then we can work with her to plant, would be a swamp oak, because it would be down in Hunting Creek Park, in the area that may be flooded from time to time, and probably put a little plaque the way Ron has done on some of these other commemorative trees that seem to work very well. Okay. Next item I had on the agenda was parking lot expansion. Mr. Mayor or Ron, any update on that?
Yeah, I'll give you an update. We have a contract with an engineer to study what needs to be done as far as sprucing up the existing parking around City Hall, and also expanding, adding additional parking. I don't have a report back on that yet. That contract was entered into probably 2 weeks ago.
And from what we learned from Ron and Linda Waddell and I met with them about that parking lot expansion, there would be 3 trees taken out, one of which would be the commemorative tree for Officer Timmons. And Andrea, you reported that that tree could be moved to get a slightly higher cost. Can anybody comment on that issue?
Yeah, let me jump in. We won't know what expansion he recommends or where he recommends it until we get his report. So it's a little premature to be talking about what trees are affected or are not affected.
Okay. The next item on the agenda was the goals for the tree plan that is to be submitted to council by the last Friday in April, according to the ordinance. Basically, this sets out the goals that the Forestation Board would like. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, before you switch topics, I wanted to ask a quick question, if I could, about the parking lot expansion, playground area. And I know that you had forwarded me I believe an email Sarah had sent out or asked about as far as helping make a recommendation for shrubs along 42 maybe for, and I'm happy to help. I sent an email to you, to the board today, the Forestation Board, but I'd really like to meet somebody on site to have a better idea of, exactly what you want to do before I could help with any numbers, putting numbers to that or recommendations, shrub wise or otherwise for screening. But if you don't have the final plan, from what the mayor said, it sounded like you don't have the final plan for the parking lot expansion yet anyway, do you? Is that correct?
No, there's not a final plan, but they need a number. They need a cost.
Well, I would need to meet somebody on site, whether it's Lee or you, Herb, or anybody.
Yeah, I can meet and get
because I don't have enough information to make a recommendation what you want. So
okay.
I just need to look at it with somebody real quick, and that would.
I volunteer to get with Sarah to find exactly, and then I meet you at the site.
Is that something you were trying to get by Friday? Did I see, Sarah?
Yeah, it was, yeah, and I'm happy to go out there with you. I'm sure I've got your email somewhere in here. I can send you my phone number. Yeah, it's to kind of mimic the shrubs that are down by the Fox Harbor entrance. There's only like 5 or 6. They're pretty like beefy, something along those lines to run the length. It was just to get a cost, not a formal quote, but something that I could put together as a pretty good estimate to include in the brief to the council that's Monday night. So we can kind of plan that for the grants. Because they would pay for
you just wanted to have run along the board fence all the way down?
That's exactly what it is. It's 300 feet of the board fence. Now what that equates to in plant number, I'm not sure, but it's about 300 feet is what it would be. And it is along the board fence, yeah.
Okay. Well, I can do that if it's just the board fence. I thought it might include some other areas, so I wasn't quite sure. But those are burning bushes. They're up by, Fox Harbor next to the fence. And, you can plant more burning bushes, a row of burning bushes down through there. Burning bushes are not, they could be used, certainly. There's other options for shrubs that might even be hardier, like something like a viburnum maybe, that be just more. Burning bushes, sometimes when you get into drought years, they're more drought intolerant, and whatever gets planted is going to have to be watered some, of course, to keep it going the first couple of years till it gets established. But I can. What I could do by Friday is I put in an email to the board. I should have copied you, but I could get the wholesale cost, figure out a number of shrubs to finish that line and get the wholesale cost. And then usually just as a very rough estimate, you can multiply that by 2.5 to 3 times to get the cost to get it supplied and installed. And that would just give you a rough estimate if that would be good enough for now. And then you can eventually get your, quotes that you need for firm numbers. Would that work?
Yeah, that would definitely work. Yeah. It's how many zeros, are on the
Right.
end of that first number. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I can do that. We don't need to meet then, Herb. Okay, Lee, I think I got that resolved.
Okay, that's one of the items I had as a goal in the email was work with parks to enhance the beauty and security of the new playground, and that's what we're talking about. So we've covered that item, if everybody agrees with it. We had a suggestion from Linda Wardell again, that we have a public speaker program. And that is something that is probably doable once we get past this COVID. We could have it inside at the city library, or if we actually anticipated a larger number of people than the library could accommodate, I'm sure we could access the firehouse meeting room. Many groups use that facility for meetings. Anybody have any comment on the public speaker program as such? It would be the way to increase people's awareness of trees and value and how to pick the right tree, et cetera,
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a good idea, and I don't know if it necessarily has to be an indoor meeting. We're getting pretty good weather now. So.
It could be.
It might be easier to be an indoor meeting depending on what speaker you get, so they can have access to their, with PowerPoint and laptops and screens and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Usually.
Okay.
I might be able to help you with that, Lee. Well, actually, the whole group. There is a initiative, a statewide initiative, and I just heard about it myself a couple of weeks ago while attending another meeting. So I have to look into it a little bit, but I do know that there is an initiative and that there are people that work for the state that do that kind of thing, and so they would be perfect speakers. So let me look into it for you, and I'll get back to the group at the next meeting.
Okay, Greg.
I can give you some ideas too.
We have been in contact with Bridget Abernathy, who does work for State Forestation as the urban forester coordinator, and she offered actually to give a talk. That was back to pre-COVID times, but she'd be one person. I'm sure we could find 2 or 3 people.
There's several people, a lot of people you can ask, and Paul, I don't know if you could get Paul Cappiello from Udell Gardens. He'd be very interesting and can. He can talk on a variety of subjects, and he's an interesting speaker. You have to get him way in advance. You could, there are people that work for the state, like you mentioned. Bridget is one of them. There's people at Bernheim that will speak usually. There's that I can't think of the way how you pronounce his name, but the one I suggested before COVID, Dr. Botnager. I can't remember if that's the right pronunciation, but he's at U of L, and he's the one that's doing the studies on air pollution and stuff on some of the neighborhoods out by the airport. And he's the one that was doing the studies at St. Margaret Mary, where they put in all those evergreens to try to shield pollution from the kids going to school there. And they've been doing a lot of studies on the effect of trees and its effect on cardiovascular disease, and helping with in terms of pollution and just the effects of green space affecting your mental state and that kind of thing. But he hasn't been speaking, of course, since COVID. But he's very interesting also. So, I mean, I don't, and Greg, I'm sure you can find several more, but those are just some ideas. But, you know, I think that you can get speakers that are interesting to, you know, a varying group of citizens or residents, you know, with their different interests.
Okay.
Hey, Lee,
Yes, sir.
I'll plead guilty. I have not opened up your tree plan goal. Did you make a mention about this, the possibility of creating a plan for planning in these right of way? Is that part of one of the goals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The little email I sent out lists several, like about 6 goals for the coming year, and one of them was develop a method for sharing tree planting costs with residents. So
Okay.
that's what we're talking about, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
And you and Andrea both talked about it very well. Okay. We already talked about the parking lot, which I had worked with the administration to mitigate the impact of parking expansion on trees. The last item, and since we have council members online here, this was have an ordinance modification requiring developers to submit tree plans for review. We've had a problem with the breakers in that I twice requested their tree plan, and I think the mayor twice requested their tree plan. They have not provided anything. They, of course, have to follow the ordinance in the species of trees, which are many that they're allowed to plant, and the spacing of them. The ordinance covers that, but it would be nice if they send in their plan. We don't intend to harass them, but to maybe have Andrea comment on, make some suggestions, which she actually did for the development off of Hunting Creek Drive, and they're still working on theirs, but they did send us their initial plan. Anyhow, that's another goal. Anybody want to comment on that?
Will those streets and the breakers be public streets, or will they be private streets?
The brief conversation I had with them was that the breakers was going to require or provide 2 trees on every lot. That's all I got from them. I sent them a copy of the ordinance 2 years ago, but we've had nothing come back from them.
Don, would it be okay with you if I shared some information from our meeting with her last week about that?
That would be great. That would be a good contribution.
Well, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to word this just perfectly. First of all, let me speak from the perspective of the developer, and I think we all know that that's Ms. Gillisan. What we know is that she stated that the type of streets that she put in, the breakers, according to her, are way above standards. We also know that she has put gates in, or I don't know if the actual gate is there, but the supports for the gates are there. And on the side coming in from Innisbrook, I didn't know that those gates are there. So I think what I can say safely is that she reserves the right to make that a gated community. That's her privilege and legal right as a developer. My sense is that she will. I didn't hear that from her, but that's my gut feel from the fact that she's put the gates in, that there are electronic sensors in the streets, in the breakers that are 4 car lengths in, so that allows plenty of time for the gates to close. And I know she has a rather sophisticated system on them so that delivery personnel such as Amazon and FedEx and so on and so forth, they have the capability of downloading software so that they can get in as well. So my hunch is, and she said that she'd figure this out later on, but given all of the steps that she's taken, and since it's her legal right, I think that she will make it a gated community, and I think that those streets will belong to that community. That's a hunch of mine.
Okay,
Oh, that's good to know.
that is good to know. However, even if she makes it gated, the existing ordinance would still apply within that area. It's part of the city of Prospect. So,
Yes, she should give us, you all, a report on what she's going to do, and I'm saddened that hasn't happened yet, so maybe John or somebody can follow up with her and get that to you.
That, that's really
You should know
a
that,
good
you
step to
should know
take
that.
for somebody to review these plans. Because just even switching up a variety or cultivar, as I mentioned earlier, on a particular type of shade tree can make a huge difference in the maintenance and the longevity of those trees going forward. Just a tremendous amount. So it's not like it would it wouldn't necessarily cost money. It's just common sense. It's just common sense. Everybody out.
Can you hear me? Can't hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you should know that we have told her that if she gates her community, we will not accept her streets as public streets.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that has any effect on what you're talking about or not, but that's the fact. So if she does go ahead and gate the community, they're not going to be Prospect streets.
Interesting.
I remember seeing trees in her original plot plan development. Now, as to what type they were and how many, I have no idea, but I do know that she had trees in her original plan.
Okay.
I wanted to add something along Andrea's remarks, that if just one or two species of trees are planted, they all tend to become problems at the same time. This is happening in this book where they all have pin oaks, and I had a resident contact us more than a year ago and saying he walks a lot, and he found that there were 15 trees that were in serious decline or causing problems all at the same time within his book, because they just planted one kind of tree.
That happens a lot.
Wasn't that the situation on Fox Meadow Way?
Yeah,
All
those were all trees.
all those trees had to be removed because they were the same species and they all had the same
Right.
disease. Yeah,
That's correct.
One of the long-standing goals in the tree seed plan that has existed since it was first written was to have and at least encourage planting of a variety of trees. Anyhow, if there's some follow-up by Greg or the mayor, that would be wonderful. Any other comments on that? If not, the next and last item is the draft article I sent around about basically Trees Louisville offering free trees, rebates on trees, and tree guidance to run in the next city newsletter. Any comments on that? Any comment?
I thought it was pretty good, Lee, but I was questioning your sentence. It said, just as tiny newborn babies can sometimes sprout into basketball centers. I wasn't sure what you meant by that.
We'll fix that up.
Pardon me?
Maybe that needs change.
The sinners are typically.
I'm just, I kind of know, but maybe it just needs to be reworded a little bit, that sentence, but
Andrea, that's your Pennsylvania background. In Bluegrass State, we know what basketball centers are.
okay, all right, well, I stand corrected then.
Just jokingly. The only thing I thought is maybe young men should be young people, because I know when I was a young man, I wanted the young ladies to turn to love too, thoughts of love too.
It's probably a good
Folks,
point.
I'm going to have to go, folks. Great meeting. Thank you.
Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Okay, the last item on the menu is the next meeting, which would be May 11th, which is the regular meeting on the Forestation Board, second Tuesday of the month. Before then, we probably need to have a special meeting, at least of the board, to discuss drafting this plan to share tree planting costs with the residents and how many, et cetera, how that would be done. I'll send a possible date out for that special meeting, and people can comment. We'll work out something.
Why don't you give 2 or 3 dates, please?
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You want a motion to adjourn?
I think that'd be a good idea.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you,
Oh,
Sylvia.
this Sylvia. Yeah. You've been on there? I hadn't seen you before.
I second.
You're a third, Connie. You're
Oh,
a third.
I third.
All right.
Are you
Thank
gonna
you
vote
all.
on the motion? Aren't you
Bye-bye.
gonna vote on the
Bye-bye.
motion?
Thank you, guys.
Me?
See ya.
Thank you.
You never voted on the motion.
We're voting right now. All in favor of adjourning?
It's too late, they're all gone.
Connie, Herb? I think the motion has carried. Yes, that's it. Thanks for all.